Obtaining a kind of film or analog look in images is becoming increasingly popular because it's a way of creating a more unique look in your digital images. And most of the tutorials that you will see focus around achieving a kind of analog color effect. And there's nothing wrong with those tutorials at all, but they obviously focus heavily on changing colors. So what we're going to do with this tutorial is obtain a film look, but without changing the colors. So we're just going to achieve some of the qualities that you might expect to achieve when you're shooting with print film. So I have a colorful shot here because I think it works quite well, and we have some shadows and highlights so we can see how things are progressing. Quite often when you're processing your images, you will apply lens corrections. So I'm leaving those switched off. I'm just going to leave remove chromatic aberration on, and we're going to leave the corrections unchecked because if you were shooting film, you would not have the ability to correct any lens issues. And if your lens is creating a natural vignette, then that is part of the look. So we're going to stick with that there. So in terms of the exposure, the white balance, I'm really happy with everything here. So I'm just going to bring down the highlights slightly, so I'm going to bring those down to -30 and then take the shadows up to +40. So the settings that we're going to use here, you can apply them to any image and use them as a starting point. All images are obviously very different, but generally speaking, these settings will allow you to achieve that kind of film look. So next up, we're going to move down to the whites, and I'm just going to drag those over to +35. And I'm just holding down the Alt key, that would be the Option key on a Mac, just so that I can see anywhere where there's clipping. And that white patch there has completely bleached out, but it's not a problem because there was artificial lighting in this booth, and that's just the reflection of the light. And then with the blacks, what we're going to do here is lift them right up, because typically with film, you didn't get blacks that were quite as deep as you would with digital photography. Obviously, different films have different effects, so what I'm going for here is a kind of general look. So I'm going to take the blacks over to the right, all the way up to 50. And let's just have a quick look at the before and after as we're going along. So there's our before, and there's our after. So we haven't made a huge difference, we've just lifted the shadows and made the image look slightly more hazy than it did before. Okay, so next up, I am going to go to the saturation slider, and I'm going to take that down to -10 just to remove some of the color so it's not so punchy. Again, some films were well known for increasing saturation, but we're going to go for a kind of general look. So I'm just muting the colors down ever so slightly. So I'm not removing a great deal, but just getting a slightly duller image. And then next up we are at the tone curve. So just make sure you're on the point curve, and then where it says linear, click on that drop down menu, and we're going to set medium contrast. So we've added some more contrast here, but what I would like to do is add a matte effect. So I'm going to lift that corner point up and then lift this point up here. So we're creating a kind of haziness in the shadows where we're kind of picking up some of the natural grain from the image. So if I just switch this off, you'll see what we're doing here. So it makes a real difference in the shadow areas. It's quite hard to see when the image isn't zoomed in. If you accidentally place a point on the tone curve that you don't want, you can just right click on it and then select delete point. So there we go, delete control point, and that would remove it if you misplaced one. So let's just take a quick look at the before and after again. So I think this time it's going to be much more dramatic than the last time. And if we just zoom in. And finally, what we need to do is add some grain. Because even if you were shooting at ISO 100 with a 35mm camera, you would end up with some grain in the image. It would be fine rather than large and really noticeable like with higher ISO films, but it would definitely be there. So I'm going to zoom in for this so we can see what's happening. And here I am going to take the amount up. So we're going to go for an amount of 30. So it's looking quite noisy, or grainy should I say, at this stage. So because we're trying to mimic ISO 100, I'm going to take the size down to 10. And the roughness, I'm going to take that down as well because this is all about a really nice fine grain. So let's go for a roughness of 15. And then if we just look in this corner here, so we've got the grain, we've got that kind of analog haziness, and we've achieved a film look, but without adjusting the colors in the image.